Media Group. In the Know.
Welcome. Good evening. I'm Miss Jill, and this is In the Know. I am greeted this evening, or joined, I should say, by two gentlemen. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Good evening.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. So this evening we have a familiar face. In addition to E-Fikes, we have Mr. Ramadan Abdul-Azeez. Do that right?
That was perfect.
Yes. So Ramadan is the board president for the Black Chamber, CEO and founder of Blue Marble, founder and CEO of Gen Finney, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Software development company, seed facilitator. We could go, I know there's a lot more titles, but we're going to stop there because we only have so much time. So welcome, Ramadan.
Thank you.
What's up,
Thank
man?
you
How
for
you
being
doing?
here with
How you
us.
I'm good. I'm good.
Great. So you were quoted somewhere saying, in the 21st century, Black business and innovation cannot afford to wait for permission.
That's correct.
Cannot afford to wait for permission. Before we get started, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, the thing is that, excuse me, as an entrepreneur and business person, one of the things that has slowed us down is we've always waited for an opportunity and always felt that we had to go through layers to get there. In the 21st century, where a lot of barriers have been broken down and now access to information is so much greater. For example, the use of the internet or even your mobile phone can get you to as much data as you actually
Right.
want. So we're no longer in the place of having to ask for permission to do business, to ask for permission to have value or to offer value. In the 21st century, this is a time where we need to seize these opportunities without waiting for waiting for some kind of word of approval
The go
and
ahead.
access. Yes.
So just do it instead of go ahead.
Yes.
So we're talking about technology tonight because it's always relevant. You happen to be in a little bit of the technology business.
Yeah.
Correct. That's your area of
say-
expertise.
Yeah, that is my area.
Let's start out talking a little bit about your businesses, the Blue Marble, as well as the Gen Finney.
Jen Finney.
Finney.
Yes. Blue Marble is actually my primary company. Oh boy, this is 2024. So we founded Blue Marble in 2001.
Okay.
And it was in November of 2001. I went full time in the business in May of 2002 here in Fort Wayne, and I've had a lot of successes. Every business goes through cycles, but in the aggregate, we've been very successful as a company over the past 23 years. Not trying to be like this super large company,
Yeah.
but really, spending a lot more time on bringing value to our clients. Most of the clients that back then, technology was a little shaky. You'd have viruses, you'd have malware, you'd have improper use of computers, you'd have internet access problems, sometimes failed hard drives and hardware components. Things weren't as stable in the early part of the century.
Yeah.
But as we move through these last last 3 decades, what we found is that the technology has become a lot better. The quality of technology has gotten so much better that the equipment itself tends to be more obsolete faster than the operating system or the software that it runs on.
Okay.
Now, what we find is that we spend a lot less time repairing and configuring and things like that. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, we began to delve into the data analysis space.
Okay.
So we do a lot less of the managed services where we would go in and make sure that your network was working, because now there's trying to, not to use language here, but there's so many more options where data centers, and you might have heard that Google is bringing invested $2 billion in a data center here in Fort Wayne, basically Fort Wayne, New Haven, and that's where you get. I mean, that's going to be the 28th data center that Google has around the world. Okay. So now you've got such a large amount of data, okay, that not just Google handling it, but everything, including those automated trucks we were talking about. If they're driverless, then they have to send and receive a lot of data real time, and you have to have the infrastructure for that. And what happens is that there's so much data that's being collected that it has to somehow make sense to the company.
Right.
Our company, Blue Marble Inc., or now doing business as Blue Marble Analytics, not Blue Marble Information Management Group. We have determined now that we have the ability and the expertise to help companies put rules around or develop a governance model around their data and how they use it. Okay. Actually, we're doing some work now. We just wrapped up a contract with the FSSA down in Indianapolis. We're doing some data analysis work with the state of Vermont, and we're now talking to Eli Lilly for some data analysis work that they're wanting to. So we'll be doing work with a lot of the states here in Indiana and those around Indiana in our first iteration of data analysis. Yeah.
Okay. In 23 years, you said.
23. Where
did the Blue Marble name come from? You knew I was going to ask.
It's been a long time since somebody did. We were when we started, we were being conceived. We were thinking about the global reach that technology had. And at that time, a lot of people were coming online with businesses, and they were global and they were international. Okay. But really, technology really kind of makes the world a lot smaller. You get news faster. When things happen, you know about it. Yeah. That's because the technology is so spread out, and I'm really trying to keep from using language, but it's everywhere, and because it's everywhere, and the news travels so much faster, it really makes the world a lot smaller. So I started thinking about what technology does and what we do. Okay. And if it's smaller, it's probably about the size of a marble. See my fingers? Mm-hmm. So we created this logo, which kind of indicates that the world is being held by a larger. Actually, it's so small that you could actually hold it in your hand.
Yeah, and I don't think everybody can see that. I actually never knew before today that. So the marble is the earth.
That's right.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Go ahead.
Now, with technology moving as fast, and like you guys were talking about the trucks that could drive by themselves, how does that affect the workforce as far as having actual people working?
It shifts the workforce. The driverless trucks, driverless vehicles. What happens is there's a lot fewer people to program, and manage these vehicles. These vehicles are built on a whole different model or idea. They're lighter, but they're more durable. They're smarter, so they don't require drivers as much as they used to. And I can tell you this. In order for these trucks to really work, you're going to need infrastructure. And what I mean by that, it's a smart a smart vehicle is only as good as the road. So you're going to have smart roads. And so what you're having is you have a shift. Instead of being a driver, you're probably going to be one that provides or maintains the infrastructure for, to inspire these driverless trucks and other vehicles.
You're saying that they become the road builders?
The modifiers, the roads are already there. You'll just need to be able to modify them. I would imagine something that you would see probably at an airport, where at certain points on a highway, you would see this tower where people sit and navigate, keeping or monitoring the traffic, at the traffic lanes where the unattended vehicles, or I should say the driverless vehicles, will travel.
Yeah.
So roads will change because vehicles are changing, and jobs will change because roads and vehicles are changing.
It's almost like they'll
That
need
wasn't a political answer I never heard in my life.
like when you have air traffic.
You love saying that, don't you?
Boy, that was a political answer.
You love
because
that.
you danced all the way around it.
I said exactly what you asked
Listen,
me.
no, I asked you, how do that affect the workers, the
I
working
did.
man?
I did.
Because the working man, I mean, if you pull, well, AI. Hold on, let's say this. I'm not disclaiming AI or any technology, because technology is good in some way, some form or fashion. But when you start using technology to remove the human from making money to survive, now that's an issue.
Well, it sounds personal.
But unless you shift them, like you were saying.
So we have to shift to become more techie.
I mean,
that's.
I
What
don't
you
see
said.
that as a bad thing. I mean, there's no way to escape technology now. You have chips in your debit and your credit cards. You have cameras and surveillance everywhere. And you don't even have to insert your card now. It has a chip reader on the outside. We just wave over a card reader.
And I get all that.
Debits. Well, you're not going to be able to escape technology.
I'm not saying you can escape technology, but if you move the man out, as far as the hardworking American citizen or anybody, for that matter, that affects the economy. That affects everything that moves around. So that means technology is taking food out of my mouth, because now I have to go back to school, or a person would have to go back to school and learn how to be the person that maintains the towers, to sit down and watch and navigates this now. And when some people don't have that that brain power or that mentality to understand that, so you can't say, oh well, that's tough luck, because you've shifted now the average American working person that doesn't have the mindset or the mind power that to do technology.
And think about
that's
this.
That's an interesting premise. I think that it's maybe a sad commentary when a human being, with the brain that they have, to not want to grow it.
It's not a point of expanding your mind or growing. It's some people, some people is a left, some people is a right brain. So you can't sit there and say, oh, it's a sad premise when a person learns. Everybody's don't have the technology, the techie mind. So you saying now that the fact that technology is coming, everybody has to get in that mindset and become techie, or else. That's what it sounds like you saying.
My suggestion is this. My suggestion is that people look at the trend that is taking place in every aspect of their life, where the government and technology exists to minimize areas that don't rely on manual anything. Okay, for example, we use our debit cards a lot more than we ever did. And I said this to a group of people some 30 years ago. Actually, I even reiterated about 20 some years ago, where your transactions in a bank or in a financial institution, where you're working for it, But when you get your check, it's electronically debited. It never really comes to you. It gets electronically deposited into your account. But the money isn't there. It's just it's an entry in a computer that gets shifted over or authorized from one database to another. It's not until you actually go and you take cash out that it's realized. You never take the whole check out. You spend according to what your debit card allows you to do, but you don't take a whole wad of cash and you go spending it. So what has happened is that technology has even separated you from your money. So to separate you from your money, to separate you from, the same type of work that you used to do, it's a natural progression, and I would say even an evolution of where we need to be. I'm just suggesting that the education be shifted or changed so that the larger portion of people who are young people coming online as adults, are included, not excluded.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you're taking a personal position against it, I would say that this is the perfect opportunity to realize, what your brain can actually do. You should take the challenge.
I don't have nothing personal against it. I'm a little techie, but at the end of the day, you have people that are not. So, I mean, you have, put it like this, you have people that are natural carpenters. You know what I'm saying? You have people that are natural masonry. Things are like that. Things of that nature. You have natural people that's just don't have, they more manually. And now at some point, you're going to take that away from them because they have a set skill from in a whole nother area. But then you can take technology and say, okay, let's remove him from building this building and build this machine that can build this building. So that takes him out of the job. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, I do.
So
Absolutely.
it's just like, okay, either you get on board or you become homeless or you become moneyless or you know what I'm saying? So you wanted to shift, but you wanted to shift evenly.
I think that has happened with just about every industry. My father, he entered, he worked at General Motors. He retired about 14 years ago. And I remember when they had a bring your family to work day, and he was showing me like his station and the things that he was putting on in the dashboard, and he would tell me, "Then this is what I do," and I says, and you do this every day, and he says, "Yeah," and you do this all day, and he said, "Yeah," and I said, "Well, that's very interesting." I says, well, so what are the components that you're putting in there? He says, I don't know. They just told me to put these in, and this is how it goes in. And I knew what they were, but, it wasn't really about trying to minimize my dad. So now he's been retired. He moved down here to Fort Wayne with me, and he walks around now with me, or we'll drive around. And one of the things I told him was, I need you to understand something, Dad. When you come down to Fort Wayne, I can't explain it to you, so I'm going to wait until you get down here. I'm going to have to take you around, and I'm going to need you to think a little differently. If nothing else, just don't make a value judgment on what you see or what you experience. But I need you to know that I don't punch in. I don't clock in. And what I do is perfectly legal. And so we went from place to place. I showed him, basically my routine. And only now, and he's been here for about 5 years now, only now is he starting to understand. You know what he said? He says, I feel like I've been in school. He says, I never knew that this part of that life was like this. And I said, well, I know you've had your head down and you've clocked in and your mandatory 10s and mandatory 12s. But essentially, though, Dad, this is the world now.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're starting to see, so if you even think back to like when self-checkouts came out and we were all like,
Mhm.
And then after that, you would have let me think of something else. I don't know, the ATM. I mean, if you go back and look at all of these different things that we have had to adjust to, for example, the whole goal with this Aurora company is within, and not just them, but their competitors. They said between 3 to 4 years away, they're about that far out, where almost all of the trucks on the road will be these self-driven trucks. And the main goal was to provide round the clock, no stop, no breaks type of service.
Right.
So, with that being said, we were talking earlier about the shortage of people now, which kind of you guys were getting into, that aren't going to know anything about AI. Because how do you learn stuff about that? You feed your brain, you read. Like, how did you learn everything that you learned about your business? So let's talk a little bit about AI,
Right.
because I know there are some confusions, or what should I call, misconceptions about AI.
Okay.
So yeah, let's go with that, because I know a lot of people have questions or
That's good.
fear that.
We've embraced it. As a matter of fact, we've changed our domain from bluemarbleinc.com to bluemarbleinc.ai. So you could actually go out and find our website. But we use the artificial intelligence domain name so that our technological offering to companies and governments, are not outdated.
Yes.
Okay, that they are part of now and the future. So we won't have to change .ai at all.
Because you're adapting with it as it
Exactly.
changes, you're saying.
So when you think about AI or artificial intelligence, you also will have a tendency to also see two other letters. And it's ML. So AI, artificial intelligence, is and is used sometimes synonymously with machine learning.
Yeah.
Okay, so these programs, I'll just tell you that the chief programs that are being used for artificial intelligence is Python and Java. So when you say, well, how do we prepare? Well, none of the books are private. All of the books and the accesses are public. And actually, YouTube has all manner of free access if you want to see what this stuff looks like and how to build a program in these languages. But the key here, I think, is the fear that, and some of those concerns that you mentioned, Eric, is that one of the problems is we think that all this artificial intelligence and robots and so on is going to take over and is going to, basically eliminate our specialness as human beings. Okay, well, that's actually a long way away. If at all, it's going to happen. And here's the reason why. Artificial intelligence is only as good as what human beings program them to be and do.
Because humans still have to
Exactly.
program them.
Now, so how an artificial intelligence computer or they have them looking like robots, how they function is going to have the limitations of basically any human being is going to have, because a human being is programming them. They're not infallible. They have a lot of weaknesses. And I've seen some things on social media where you have some kind of humanoid robot. It looks like a person that's doing all these karate kicks and what have you. Okay, I had a friend of mine send me this. He says, life as we know it is about to end. And I said, take a look at the shadow. And he didn't understand what I was saying. Take a look at the shadow.
Still.
What has happened is that this person has put on a green suit and they've superimposed a digital image on the green suit. There's a person doing that. And if you look at the shadow, you can see that the shadow is taking up way more surface area than the slender, lean robot.
Right.
So they have they've basically programmed or overlaid, just like any of the video games that you see. They've overlaid an image, a digital image, and made it look like it was a robot, but it's really a person.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
if you see a robot with that kind of dexterity, I'm telling you, that is a person, and they have a digital image rendering that makes you believe that that's a robot and it's not a robot.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
So I'm gonna ask you a question about AI and Mr. Technology Man.
That's why we have him here.
So you do you ever feel that AI will be able to take over?
Okay.
So I'm asking questions. Come on.
What would be the reason for that's you got to ask yourself that question. What reason would a machine have to take over the human race?
What reason?
Yeah.
So if you put too much in, it's just like any other mad scientist. Why would a person want to take over the world? So I mean, in all retrospect, if you program, since you're saying a human's gonna always have to program, right? Okay.
Yeah, except in the case of machine learning,
Okay.
where the machine or the program has the ability
to learn.
to take in information, assimilate that information, and then write new code.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and write new code. Got me?
I get what you're
Okay.
saying.
All
I
right.
follow you.
The code, the same code that was created by human beings in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
What would have to happen is that the machines themselves would have to create specific code, new code, and have their own manufacturing outlets where they're writing or creating new code and then creating the factories to replicate or to copy themselves.
Okay.
You know,
so you saying
yeah.
I'm just asking a question. You know, I'm just gotta play the devil advocate at this point.
Okay.
But so you saying it will never get to the point where that robot will be able to understand how to write a code, how to read manufacturing stuff. So you saying it will never come to that
I'm
point?
not suggesting that at all.
Oh,
what
okay.
what I'm suggesting is that there would be no motivation for there's nothing to gain.
It's like a why would it type of thing. Like what would be the
What would be the purpose?
the incentive?
What would a machine need other that it would cause them to take over the human race as the premise that you lay out. There's no impetus for a machine to need that. But let's think about this. Let's say that you programmed into you have to do it. If you programmed into a computer or a robot, an artificial intelligence entity, the inability to be satisfied. Okay. No matter what you did, it always needed more. Okay. Then that more that it needed would have to be defined in some way. More oxygen, more water, more oil, more what? It wanted to be taller. It wants to be, 12 foot, 15, 25 feet tall? I mean, at some point, if they wanted to exterminate the human race, what would it have gained?
I mean, I get your thought process, your logic behind it, but understand if I could take a robot and program him how to write a code, it really wouldn't need a reason. It just say, okay, I don't want to deal with him no more. Let me. You get what I'm saying? So if you steady feeding a robot or AI intelligence,
Yeah.
and then it has machine learning, so it's learning how to copy or mimic a code in the same way that I'm feeding it into him, and be like, oh, I don't need him no more. I can do it myself. So I mean, you have to let's look at beyond what we're You saying, oh, it can only go here.
Okay, so the
We gotta
word
look beyond that.
so the word is sentient. Where you're suggesting that a machine becomes self-aware.
That's the purpose.
No,
I
it's
mean,
not.
I hadn't read. I did my little readings,
Okay.
and they making robots have same emotional human emotions and human thought process. They are starting to move that way.
There's if that exists, it's got to be very crude, and I'll tell you why. The reason why it would be very crude is that we ourselves don't even understand emotion. So
Right.
our inability to understand emotion, would limit us from being able to program emotion into a robot or a computer. If a computer were sentient or it believed that it was alive, right? I could understand that it would want to survive. Okay, but I cannot understand that it would want to procreate. That it would see itself as the single or one of many of a whole separate race of beings. It would have to believe itself to have uniqueness. That it would have to. It would have a desire not to be exterminated. They would want to live. It would have to believe that it is alive. And that would be difficult to, I would say that something like that, I would imagine, would be centuries away.
Let's hope we're not around for that, because I mean, well, and let's be real. I mean, these concerns, and that's why we're having this conversation, because those are real, like, common concerns that a lot of people have. I mean, even my parents, I'm not going to lie, at their age, they are very antsy and afraid of all that's to come. So that's kind of why we have these conversations. And we brought Ramadan on because he does have a lot of history and education on the tech business as a whole. Before we head out, there is really statistically a shortage of people in the industry, and that is a number one concern, as experts are saying, going forward. So before we head out, I know you had said something earlier. If you could just look into the camera, tell the young people what your advice would be with all the given information that we have tonight as far as a career path.
Okay. The first thing is that we have a unique opportunity in the next 5 to 7 years. Google will be a main presence, a mainstay here in the community, and they will need a workforce of people that understand and have been trained specifically to manage these large data centers, to be able to maintain them, to be able to manage them. There'll be and these facilities are, I mean, they don't have a lot of moving parts, just rows and rows of servers. And when a person's looking for information and they say, well, just Google it, what they're saying is that you use the device that you have, your cell phone or your tablet, and get out there on the internet and use some of the large data centers that Google has, that Meta has, that Microsoft has, that Apple has, that Amazon has, to find the things that you want, the information that you want, the training that you need, and all those things. So we have a unique opportunity coming for young people to start early, and for the educational system and the vocational system to train up young people to be able to have gainful employment, but also business opportunities to contract with these larger companies, these multi-billion-dollar companies, who, by the way, many of your parents, like yours, have their 401k retirement fund invested in. They just don't know it. They should read this prospectus. So this is key. This is the world that we live in, okay? And this kind of world is not going away. So you prepare for this. So when you hear about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, this is the era that we're in. And there's a book, I think it's called The Third Wave. It's by Alvin Toffler. It talks about the United States entering into an information age. And this is the age. So we're going to be a lot less manufacturing intensive. We're going to be a lot more information and data intensive. And how we learn and how we process information needs to be taught. It needs to be embraced. And I think that in many cases, it's going to be what determines how well we live in this world.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, Ramadan, and thank you for being with us this evening. And thank you for being with us this evening. Before we exit, we always say,
always protect your mind.
A podcast by Neutral Voices Media Group.